Hey everybody, Off the Mic Wrestling Show YouTube channel reacting to the season premiere of Monday Night Raw from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. This was an awesome way to start off the season for Monday Night Raw. Big time show, big time crowd. Again, for the second week in a row, Joe Tessitore and Wade Barrett hit it out of the park. It wasn't perfect from Joe Tessitore. He missed a couple of moves. He is a wrestling fan, but naturally, sometimes you're going to call a move the wrong way. Like, it happens. Every segment on this show, every match had a meaning, had a purpose, and everything just flowed along. Really entertaining stuff tonight from Monday Night Raw. So we start the show. Also, I love that they've done this where they start with Joe Tessitore and Wade Barrett at ringside, talking to the live audience through microphones and sort of hyping up the crowd for the show. That gives it a different feel. And kind of sportsy a little bit too, so that's a different approach from WWE. So we start the match. Welcome back, Samantha Irvin. If you paid attention to this channel, like I said, God bless Alicia Taylor. I just think she shouldn't be doing ring announcing. We missed you, Samantha. Thank you for coming back, our queen. So we start off 8-person mixed tag team street fight between the Wyatt Six and American Made. This was so freaking fun. And when you contrast and compare and contrast it to some of the stuff that happened. I've spent a lot of time on the channel over the weekend talking about All Out. There was a street fight there. A lot of blood. Thumbtacks. You had Chris Statlander doing the splits into, some thumbtacks. There was table spots. Willow somehow didn't get concussed. And I was fine with it because, given the context of the feud. But then you look at something like this, which has been a feud that has been building for months. An 8-person mixed tag team street fight, and it delivered on all counts. And there was no bloodshed. There was no syringe spots or whatever. There was no crazy, there was table bumps, but there was nothing to the point of, okay, is it not safe, or did it go too far? It was the right kind of balance. It was very WWE because they know how to execute these type of matches very safely. So it really starts off with Nikki Cross and Ivy Nile really going toe-to-toe to start the team. Nikki Cross rushed from standing next to Uncle Howdy at ringside, entering the ring, and she tackles Ivy Nile to start the match. Nikki then puts a trash can over Ivy Nile at ringside and then beat it with a kendo stick. A lot of kendo sticks got obliterated in this match, which was a nice touch. Nikki then threw Ivy into the barricade. While the can was still over her, Nikki then drop kicked the trash can. The crowd's desire for tables only made it to 12 minutes into the show. So this was the right idea to start the show with this because the crowd's going to get rowdy, and especially when you're in a street fight like this, they're going to be begging for tables. So Rowan gets a pop for pulling the table out from underneath the ring. Of course, the first guy who does it, and if you're the heel and you shove it under the ring, that's always great. So Eric sets up the table at ringside. He hoists up Gable, who was saved by one of the Creed brothers. Ivy then sprayed a fire extinguisher at Rowan, and then American Made then hit a big. It wasn't quite a power bomb, but it was a big time drop through the table. And then the heels stack a bunch of debris and chairs on top of Rowan, effectively getting him out of the match for a while. Then back in the ring, Gable trips up Loomis, who went face first into a chair. Loomis came right back with a suplex and a jumping leg drop. Gacy then does his handspring into the ropes and then puts the Creeds down with a double clothesline, which was sick. Joe Gacy, I don't think that guy gets nearly enough credit. He was putting some bad gimmicks in NXT. Guy can work, man. So and he's a nice little addition to this Wyatt group. Gable and the Creeds then put a trash can over Gacy and beat him with a bunch of kendo sticks inside the ring. I think one of the kendo sticks broke during this sequence. Nile then went to grab more weapons, but Nikki Cross emerges from underneath the ring and attacks her. Cross then dove onto Nile, and they both tumble over the broadcast table in front of Wade and Joe. Rowan then came back to life at ringside, used a piece of the barricade, which I never see. He ripped apart the barricade with his bare hands and uses the barricade as a weapon to just batter his opponents. He then hits a Uranagi on Brutus, had him beat, but Gable breaks it up. Rowan was dumped to the floor. and then Brutus hit him with a Brutus ball, and then Gacy and Loomis get some dives on the from the apron to onto the heels. Back in the ring, it's Gacy and Loomis performing a double choke slam onto their opponents. Another "This is awesome." A lot of "This is awesome" chants in this match particularly, and also at the end of the show. Loomis went up top to use the leg drop to put Brutus through a table that was set up on the floor. Gacy put Gable on a table that was set up in the ring. Gacy goes to the top, but Gable jumped up, joined him there, and hit an angle slam through the table for a 2. A very close 2. Gacy kicks out, and Gable seamlessly, like our Olympic hero Kurt Angle, and immediately goes to the ankle lock. It was so seamless. It was beautiful. Niall hits Gacy with a bunch of kendo stick shots, and then Cross pulled her to the floor. Cross then gets back in the ring and gives Chad Gable a German suplex. This is what I've been saying to my sister who watches the show. It was so refreshing to see to see women kicking guys' ass like Rhea Ripley. And Nikki, it was so great to see her back in the ring. She's had a long, really weird weaved out from the ASH character to, being that weird Nikki Cross to being now Abby the Witch in this new Wyatt 6. But she hits the German suplex on Gable. Cross then goes to the floor, executes a neck breaker on Niall onto a bunch of chairs that were lying on the ground. Holy fuck. Uncle Howdy stood up, glared at Gable. Rowan attacked Gable, gave him the iron claw onto the bottom piece of the ring steps. Rowan rolled Gable inside the ring. Howdy gets into the ring, hits a sister Abigail. I think it was on Julius, and it was a great sell. Loomis then goes for the top rope assisted splash by Rowan onto Gable, and Gable gets pinned. And the Wyatt 6 win the 8-person tag match in about close to 17 minutes. This fucking ruled. Because, again, violence and all of the spots really, it wasn't anything, nothing was really inherently dangerous. Obviously, there's some level of risk in these things, but, everyone looked good in this. I would have liked to have seen American Made win this match to, put them on the right trajectory. But hey, it's a street fight. You get a 5th person in Uncle Howdy getting involved. This was a nice way to end the feud. I think this enhanced everybody involved. I think the Wyatt 6 looks really good. And even American Made, for a faction that was just formed it seems like yesterday, and they don't get a whole hell of a lot of wins, this was a really good angle for everybody involved. And I'm assuming it's over. But this was a lot of fun. A really hot match to start off in front of a hot crowd. So it was supposed to be ad-free and then WWE week, I guess because it's a WWE promo, it's not considered a commercial. It was, as my sister so eloquently pointed out to me. Then we get a very nonchalant announcement, but this was a big deal. And if you paid attention to the internet, a lot of people were really excited about this. So Joe Tessitore at ringside announces that effective October 7th, which is not too far away, in about a month, on October 7th, and ending with the season finale of Raw and USA on December 30th, Raw will go back to 2 hours and end at 10 p.m. Eastern. First of all, hell yeah. I've been waiting for this for years because I've always felt that the 3-hour segment of Raw, I feel it drags it to points. Yes, it's almost kind of like 3 hours is almost like at PLE pay-per-view length, but given the fact that a lot of these premium live events are almost also at 3 hours, I think putting it down to 2 hours is a good idea. It also decreases the amount of filler, and sometimes Raw can tend to have filler, especially during the Vince McMahon days. They were kind of just window dressing to get to the end of shows. Sometimes during the Triple H era it's happened. Tonight was not one of those cases. Everything in this 3-hour show made sense, but it's hard to believe that Raw has been a 3-hour show for 12 years. It's really hard to believe that. Because I've almost just grown accustomed to ending watching Raw at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. And this will be kind of nice to, have Raw end at 7 p.m. local time out here, 10 p.m. Eastern, like the olden days, and that should be great. And I think on a bigger level, what's going to happen, because the other thing is what is going to happen beyond December 30th when Raw ultimately then goes to Netflix I believe it will be January 6th. That's an unfortunate date, but for separate reasons. But January 6th is going to be the debut of Raw on Netflix. I firmly believe that when Raw gets to Netflix, there's going to be a very loose time constraint in terms of how long they're going to go on the air. There won't be necessarily a hard out for you broadcasters. I'm in the broadcasting business. I'm a radio producer, so I know all about hard outs. I don't think necessarily every single week they will be beholden to an 11 p.m. Eastern sign-off time. I think that it's more likely than not that it will be closer to 2 hours than 3. But I like the fact that they are shrinking this down to 2 hours again, because I think it makes Raw and SmackDown also feel like equals. You don't need actually 3 hours of television for Raw and then going to 2 hours for SmackDown. It's like it feels unbalanced. I think both these shows are really great, and I just think on some level it got to a point, like I said, with Raw just feeling like it was dragging, especially in that third hour, that 11 p.m. That's that 10 p.m. hour, going to the top of the hour at 11 p.m. Eastern. So for a really nonchalant thing, there was no graphic, nothing. It just sort of happened, and then everybody's just going crazy. This is like, people have been begging for this for a long time. Like I said, 12 years at 3 hours is a long, long time. But Raw, going back to its roots, it was always a 2 hour show, and I feel like it's gonna do a world of good. Raw's already been the best show in WWE. I think it's gonna be even better when it goes down to 2 hours. It's crazy that you say, hey, you take an hour away from a show and it's gonna get better. Believe me, you're not gonna have to fill gaps with just irrelevant segments, which was commonplace under the previous regime, and sometimes it was very hard to fill segments in the early stages of the Triple H regime, but now Raw's just cooking. Another big announcement in the middle of all this. Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley is now confirmed for Bad Blood in October in Atlanta. Bad Blood's shaping up to be a fucking massive show for a show that just got its name back. We haven't seen a Bad Blood probably in, 20 years? So shaping up to be a monumental, big-time event in early October in Atlanta. Out comes Finn Balor. And he told Damian Priest, this is really the first time we've heard from Finn in the ring since the turn. We've seen some backstage tape promos. So Finn makes his entrance. He gets on the mic, tells Damian Priest that it didn't have to be this way. He accused Priest of screwing him whenever he came close to winning the world championship. Balor called out Priest, saying he had something to say, he wanted to say to his face. Damian Priest makes the quick entrance. He marches like he was just power walking his way down to the ring, rips off his jacket, gets in the ring. Priest said he's been trying to get his hands on Balor ever since he broke up the original Judgment Day at SummerSlam. Priest said he would hear what Balor had to say and then he would drop him on his ass. Balor said he doesn't have to listen to Priest's orders anymore. He said Priest treated him like a sidekick and he's no sidekick. Balor said he wanted to face Priest in a singles match at Bad Blood. Priest accepted and then indicated it was time to get physical. Balor asked if he remembered the Judgment Day playbook, which Damian Priest wrote. And we get JD, Carlito, Dom Mysterio all come in. And so we get a numbers advantage on Priest. Everybody's beating up on Priest. Rhea comes out. Rhea Ripley, we get the weekly Rhea Ripley pop. But she's coming out on a crush. She's still in the knee from last week's attack and the whole rope spot. So she's still selling that, which could be interesting in the long-term story building the Bad Blood. So Dom confronts Rhea at ringside. Liv runs in, tried to hit Ripley from behind, but Ripley saw it coming, jabbed her with the crutch. Ripley wound up to use the crutch, but Dom stopped Ripley from hitting Liv. Who punched Dom and jabbed him with the crutch. Rhea slammed the crutch over Dom's back. Dom was taking some heat, but Morgan gets up, chop blocks Rhea's bad knee. Ripley gets back. They put Rhea in the ring. Morgan just goes to town on Ripley with the crutch, while the men of the group work over Priest. Priest comes in and does the noble thing of covering and protecting Rhea Ripley. Morgan slams the crutch over the back of Priest several times as well. Dom takes the crutch and works over Priest as well. And Carlito and Dom held Priest down while this was going on. Everybody through this segment, I was a little surprised that this happened. Everybody through this segment was chanting for Yuta. I was like, guys, Jay's got a match later in the night. But Jay Uso comes out. Judgment Day members get out of there. Jay checks on Priest and Ripley. Judgment Day poses at ringside. This was honestly the best thing that the Judgment Day, this new Judgment Day, has done since they excommunicated Rhea and Damien from the group. Like, this was the best thing that they could have done. And they did some stuff with, Dom later in the night. They did, obviously, Finn was fantastic in the show. I loved Finn's promo, talking about, hey, I'm Finn Balor. I ain't no sidekick. This was, like, Finn had been looking weak for about a month. He'd been literally running away from Priest after that turn at SummerSlam. So this was the best thing they could have done. We get 2 matches for the pay-per-view, the Premium Live event in Atlanta, out of this segment. This was an outstanding piece of business. I loved everything about this. The Judgment Day finally got some heat back, which they needed desperately for us to take them seriously. Because it has been a slog with this thing for a while. It feels like the Terror Twins have really dominated this feud, but they needed this to happen. So then we get a Joe and Barrett live shot. They speak at ringside, recap Braun Strowman getting hit with the tsunami in the car 2 weeks ago, and then somehow coming back to win a qualifying match for the main event, which was going to be the Fatal 4-Way to determine who's the number 1 contender for the Intercontinental title. Jackie Redmond gets a backstage interview with Braun Strowman, who said he's working last week's match didn't help with his injuries. He said he's a wounded monster, but he's even more dangerous. And then we get the dog himself, Ron Breakker. He said, yeah, Braun, you're a monster. He said he would show the world that you don't have to have Strowman's size to be a monster. Said the only reason Strowman was still standing is that he hasn't been in the ring with him. And Braun said he hopes Breakker, Braun, I'll call him Bronathan, I guess, in this scenario. There's too many Brauns on this show. So then Breakker said he hopes Strowman wins the 4-Way and said he would see him around. Nice little civil conversation between two big sons of bitches. But yeah, that was a good segment. Then we get tag team title match. Nice to see Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill on Raw. They defend against Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, the former champions, a rematch from Bash in Berlin. This was relatively quick. Look, I know a lot of people are really out on the women's tag team division, but I really hope coming out of this that they start to build something, because Bianca and Jade are special together. Like, Bianca is just so freaking good at what she's able to do. Her athleticism and just the ability of her as a wrestler. And I think you can see a lot of what she's been able to do in her career, and a lot of her, like, you know, the stuff that she's been trained on to do, a lot of those moves and everything has rubbed off on Jade. Jade just looks a lot smoother in the ring. So later on in this match, challengers get the better of Belair, but Cargill gets in, drops fire with a pump kick, which looked nasty. Cargill grabs her hamstring at this point in the match, and then Belair and Cargill hit their DDT German suplex combo move, which is a sick tandem finisher, and Jade gets the pin and wins the match. This was harmless. This was short. It was good. Like I said, it was fine. It wasn't anything terrible. It kind of was there, but Bianca and Jade go over as the champions. It was a good showcase for all involved. So we'll see what happens with Bianca and Jade moving forward in the women's tag team division. It's definitely not been a strong point of since it was established 5 years ago. So then, interesting point in the night, and I don't know if this is Triple H rhetoric or if Joe Tessitore has watched too many, Vince McMahon episodes of Raw. So broadcast team, they're talking, and Joe Tessitore says Damian Priest was taken to a local medical facility. Oh God, we're doing this again. I don't know. Maybe they bounce between they sometimes bounce between hospital and local medical facility. But guys, don't worry. Triple H is producing these shows. It's not Vince McMahon. But we got to start sounding like human beings. Who the fuck calls hospitals local medical facilities? Only WWE. So then we get an interview backstage with the entire LWO. Zelina Vega back with everybody. So it's Ray, Dragon Lee, Zelina Vega, Cruz del Toro, and Joaquin Wild. They speak to Dragon Lee, who's got a match with Dom tonight. Judgment Day shows up, and Ray ended up bickering with Balor and Dom, so that was a neat little back and forth. Ray told Balor to stop hiding behind his son and face him in a match, so Balor agrees to it. So we get Finn Balor versus Rey Mysterio in a match tonight. That's a nice little impromptu match that we get out of that segment. And then we get to the top of hour 2, and Bret Hart back in Toronto, back in Calgary, back in Canada. We're getting my Canadian cities all mixed up. They're doing Survivor Series in Vancouver. By the way, those tickets are going on sale later this week. And that's another thing that they did plug before in this segment. So Joe and Wade are in the ring. I think that's really cool. You got both of them in the ring. Makes the segment feel bigger. And so Bret Hart comes out. He looks great. Fans pop big as he made his significant, his iconic entrance. Tessitore tells the crowd that Bret was back, and it was great to see him. They worked in to plug the Survivor Series tickets. They're going on sale later this week in Vancouver. That should be awesome. That's going to be a big show. They've managed to make Survivor Series more significant again, so that's really cool. So then another cool thing that I thought was really interesting if you paid attention to the internet. So I think Bret gets in the ring, goes up to Wade and asks him something. And I think it was to see where the hard cam was, which is so great. And Wade, just a pro, no hesitation, just like, okay, yeah, it's over there. So basically, Barrett asked Bret how great it felt to be back home in Calgary. Bret spoke about being a champion and also being a Canadian champion. Hart said Canadian champions would take on anyone because they had to prove themselves, just as he did for over 20 years. He's the best there was, and the best there ever will be. And then out comes Gunther, the World Heavyweight Champion. He gets booed, gets "you suck" chants. Gunther calls Hart a legend and said he was about to pour his heart out to his childhood hero. Gunther then mentions Bret's catchphrase. Gunther said it felt like a passing of the torch because Bret is the best there was, but Gunther is the best there is and ever will be. Gunther then this was line of the night, maybe one of the lines of the year. Gunther tells Bret Hart to his face that he will always be a close second to his favorite all-time wrestler. Stalls and says Bill Goldberg. Whoo! I thought he was going to say himself and be the self-serving. Bill Goldberg to the face of Bret Hart, the guy that ended Bret Hart's career. What a heel, man. That was a fantastic line. And after that, Sami Zayn comes out. He's wearing a Calgary Flames jersey. It is actually the jersey of Johnny Gaudreau, the late Johnny Gaudreau, Johnny Hockey. I spotted this immediately. If you're not a hockey fan, this is a tragic story, and they highlighted it later in the show, which I can talk about. But Johnny Gaudreau was tragically killed by a drunk driver a couple weeks ago. I think today was actually the night of Monday was, and the night of Raw was actually the day of his funeral. And I read something that his wife, I think, said they were expecting their third child. Man, what a heartbreaking situation. But a nice gesture from WWE and Sami Zayn to wear a Calgary Flames jersey, specifically Johnny Hockey, Johnny Gaudreau out there. Zayn takes issue with Gunther making a joke at Bret's expense. He said he's a hero to the city, a generation of wrestlers, and a hero to him personally. Sammy then said if Gunther thinks he's the best, then he should prove it by giving him a shot at the World Heavyweight title. Gunther told Bret with all due respect that he's not in his league. She told Sammy with all due respect, and I think he was acknowledging it to Bret as well because Bret was still there, that he's not in his league. Gunther said Zayn isn't in Bret's league, and therefore his answer remains no. And Gunther drops the mic. He tries to leave. Bret then gets on the mic, said he didn't look like a champion. He looked like a gutless yellow coward. Gunther removes his jacket. Sammy gets down to ringside, jaws with Gunther for wanting to get in the ring with Bret. Zayn blocked the punch and then ran Gunther into the ring post and worked him over for a little bit before a couple of refs pulled him off. This was a great segment and a perfect usage of a legend like Bret Hart. You don't have to put legends over at the expense of your roster. I think there was a rumor going around that Gunther was going to get buried by a bunch of legends early in his Intercontinental title reign. So this was a really good segment. Bret didn't come off like a chump. Bret got got some heat. He got a joke in on him with the Goldberg line, which I thought, seriously, that was, I haven't, like, outwardly, like, laughed that hard in a while at a wrestling show, and that was just a fantastic line, and great delivery by Gunther. I don't understand why there's a lot of people that don't like Gunther. He may not be your cup of tea in terms of the ring or even on the microphone. He's very old school, but he gets the job done. And say what you want, he's one of the best wrestlers in the world. And I think this run that he is on, hopefully we're going to be able to discover it more, like how great of a wrestler this guy is. He's going to have another banger with Sami Zayn. Don't know when that's going to happen. Maybe they'll happen at Bad Blood. Maybe they'll do it on Raw, because we know Triple H does not like to load up his pay-per-view cards, and we've already got 2 matches. We're going to get a third one later. Stay tuned. But this was a great segment. It really, Sammy's looks credible as a challenger. Gunther gets a little heat on him, and great usage of a legend in his in his hometown, home country. Just a really, really, really great segment. Backstage, we get Braun Breaker. He was about to say he didn't know what to think of Pete Dunne when he so like they're doing Pete was just back there looking around, and Braun confronts him. So he said, I was about to say he didn't know what to think about Pete Dunne, and he was about to call him Butch, but Dunne stopped him. Dunne said he was going to beat Trick Williams tomorrow. Great, I think it's a last man standing match in NXT, and then win the NXT title, because the winner of that match is going to be the number 1 contender for Ethan Page. And then he would become a double champion by beating Breaker for the Intercontinental title. Braun drops a line about the dogs barking loudly in Canada, and then wish Dunne good luck. Sheamus then shows up and attacks Pete Dunne until the security intervenes just long enough to get Dunne away. So you would think that maybe they were going to try and get Pete Dunne out of this match. They didn't. Pete Dunne has been a workhorse the last couple of months, man. It's really awesome to see the Bruiserweight back into things. Then we get Dom versus Dragon Lee. Cardinal sin here from WWE. First of all, their entrance music isn't great. LWO music's fine. Dragon Lee has one of the few bangers out of Def Rebel, and they have Dragon Lee just come out to the LWO music. What are we doing? Come on. If there's one thing, and that's a nitpick tonight, because this was a great show. That's a nitpick right there. So that was a little bit egregious. A lot of calamity happened in this thing, like Judgment Day and the LWO were heavily involved in this. Dragon Lee gets Dom in the Tree of Woe, hits him with the double stomp from the ropes, which always looks great. These guys have phenomenal chemistry. They had a feud over the North American Championship in NXT. So Lee makes the cover, but McDonough, JD, puts Dom's foot on the bottom rope. Ray then goes after McDonough. Brawl breaks out amongst everybody at ringside. Morgan gets in the ring, clips the knee of Dragon Lee while the referee's distracted, and Dom hits the 619 and a top rope frog splash for the win. So Dom gets a win. I think I saw something. It's his first televised win in maybe a year. That's hard to believe, man. But good little match. You expected. Yeah, the LWO is being utilized kind of like, to put over other teams right now. And we're getting to the point of the LWO's kind of run its course, but they're doing the job for getting some heat to some of these strong heel teams that need a win. So it's a good usage of them. And then we get to what I mentioned earlier, the broadcast team, and this was a really nice weaving of sport and sports entertainment, because the broadcast team speaks at ringside about Johnny Gaudreau and the death of his brother Matthew. Jackie Redmond, who has a background in hockey, I think she works for Turner. And their hockey broadcast, so she's got a background in broadcast, and she obviously knows the Gaudreau family. So she stands outside the venue where a massive number of items were on the lawn, and steps in front of the venue. Jackie then noted that the Gaudreau brothers were laid to rest earlier today. Kind of wild. And like I said, a really nice gesture from WWE to do this as part of their show. Jackie said Gaudreau was magical to watch and a pleasure to interview. Redmond said WWE wants to send its deepest condolences to the wives of the Gaudreau brothers and their entire family. We get a memorial graphic, and really just a great thing. And it was a weird placement of this, because Pure Fusion Collective came out to no reaction whatsoever. So it's almost like they wanted to incorporate this in to get a reaction out of the Calgary fans. It's really a shame that Sonya, Shayna, and Zoe, I like them all. There's nothing there. There's just nothing there. They're great. It's just they're an intimidating group of female badasses, and it's not clicking with the audience. There's got to be some more heat to this. I don't know if it can be salvaged. So set up for this 6-woman tag that was with a mystery partner. So Zelina Vega's out there. Lyra Valkyria starts to make her entrance, but gets interrupted by DeVille. How dare you, Sonya? Lyra Valkyria's music is awesome, and her entrance is awesome. How dare you disrupt that? So then DeVille just mocks the idea of the mystery tag team partner changing the luck of the babyface team. DeVille told the mystery person to shoot her shot, and this was no surprise. Out comes Natalya after months away and speculation that she was going to go somewhere else, and AEW people saying, please don't let her come here. WWE will gladly take Natalya. She is awesome. She is a mentor to a lot of women in this division, so it was wonderful to see her get a return in a match like this, in a 6-woman tag, being the mystery partner, getting a huge reaction from the crowd. Early on in this match, DeVille holds down the middle rope and caused Vega to tumble to the floor. So, Zoe does a dive from the ring onto Vega at ringside, and that's we get a picture-in-picture break, a couple of picture-in-picture breaks. I mean, AEW doesn't even take commercial breaks. They just go into picture-in-picture all the time. Late in the match, Natalya puts Zoe in the sharpshooter. DeVille and Baszler run in for help, but Vega and Valkyria took them down and did sharpshooters as well. Zoe taps out. Very harmless. Very cool to see Natty get a win in her return match. 6 minutes. It was very harmless. Nothing inherently bad about it, but awesome to see Natalya get that reception after so many months away. Because again, she is a rock and a constant in this women's division. Good or bad of whatever she does, you cannot dismiss the fact that this woman has a lot of value. And when there was speculation that she might leave, and I never thought she would, because her husband works backstage in the company, TJ Wilson, Tyson Kidd, there was never going to be that. But to see so many AEW fans, when there was speculation that she might go there, disrespect this woman and her credibility, it really pissed me off. So, fuck yeah to see Natty back in a WWE ring. Some people in WWE, some fans in WWE continue to disrespect Natty. Look, she's valuable. She's great for this women's division. She is a constant. She is a resource for these women. Just because you don't like her doesn't mean that she's not good. So let's just put it at that. So then we get Drew's walking backstage. He walks past Tozawa and the rest of Tozawa, Otis, and Maxine. They're showing off a Flames replica title belt. I swear to God, they have maybe every sport, it seems like, has, and every team in every sport has a replica title belt. So then we promote the pre-sale starts Thursday for War Games. Regular tickets go on sale Friday. Excited for that. Then we get a quick little backstage segment with Natty talking with Zelina and Lyra, thanking them for bringing her back. And Bret comes into the picture, hugs his niece. Really quick, really simple. Again, nice little pop there for the audience for a backstage segment. So then we get Drew McIntyre. He comes out sauntering to the ring. He's wearing a leather vest and a kilt. He laughs at the fans who were chanting CM Punk. He encouraged them to continue chanting Punk's name. McIntyre said it no longer bothers him. It's simply a memory of when they chant Punk's name now. McIntyre recalled Punk boasting that he beat him in a strap match and thought he would get a world title match. McIntyre then points out, hey, he screwed me out of the world title 3 times. He added that he pinned him at SummerSlam, and McIntyre said, yeah, just because Punk's the best at touching 4 corners doesn't mean that we're finished. So he said, yeah, he made Punk a bigger star, but he can live with it because he's the one who ended Punk's career. So then he shifts his focus to what's next for him. He said he promotes The Killer's Game, starring Dave Bautista. That movie's coming out really soon. By the way, Dave Bautista looks really great. For some reason, people are mad that Dave Bautista is not muscular anymore. The guy's healthy, man, and he's turned into a pretty damn good acting career. And I will always root for Bautista. I think it's awesome that he's doing so well in Hollywood. But yeah, so McIntyre's got a movie coming up with him called The Killer's Game. I'm sure it's been promoted already a bunch on WWE programming, and I'm sure it'll continue to get promoted because that's WWE cross-promotes as well as anybody, good or bad. So then Drew then said he had some bad news, and it's regarding Wade Barrett. Nice wordplay there. So then he looks at Barrett at ringside, spoke about their history together. McIntyre said Barrett was the only logical voice who fought his case while Michael Cole continued to lie at everybody about Punk. So then he questioned why Barrett stood in his way when he wanted it to end with Punk last week. McIntyre said he wasn't angry with Barrett. He was just disappointed. McIntyre exits the ring, starts approaching Barrett, and he said, but if you do it again, I'm not going to be disappointed. I'm going to be angry, and I'm going to do something about it. And Barrett removes his headset, stands up, looks like he's about to say something, or maybe there's about to be some fisticuffs, probably doubtful. Adam Pearce gets out there, asks if McIntyre has lost the plot in life so badly that he wants to fight his friend. Pearce climbed on the apron and said he didn't think they wanted to fight. Pearce asked McIntyre to join him in the ring because he had some news that he would like to share with him, and I think you want to hear. McIntyre calls Pearce a corporate suit and a stooge. He gets in the ring. Pearce said he spoke with Punk, and he's not done with McIntyre. Fans start to chant Punk's name. McIntyre smiles. McIntyre said he didn't believe Pearce. McIntyre asked the crowd if he wanted to see him fight CM Punk again. And Pearce started to say, this has to end. It's got to end. And he announces what we all expected was going to happen. CM Punk, Drew McIntyre 3, Hell in a Cell at Bad Blood. It's happening, people. I tried to tell you. Some people were resisting it, even because CM Punk said in press conferences and was denying it. Guys, they had to have 2 matches to get to this point. This was always the conclusion. There's rumors that this is going to be the main event of Bad Blood. Frankly, if it's going to be the only Hell in a Cell match on this show, it should main event the show. Even if Cody Rhodes is from Atlanta and they've heavily promoted a lot of this show surrounding him. Like, Cody may not even have to compete on this show, if I'm honest with you. I know he's the world champion. He could be a de facto host. Maybe he does have a title match. But frankly, if you're going to be wrestling Solo Sikoa, which could have been a pay-per-view match, I'm glad it's not, maybe Cody's not competing on the show, and maybe that's why they go with Punk and McIntyre in the main event of this show. But McIntyre looks unhappy. Adam Pearce was fantastic in this segment. Joe Tessitore immediately after it gets announced goes, "Let's go!" Like, it's just the product feels bigger with Joe Tessitore on commentary. I hope, and there's a slim possibility that this happens, but I hope they do it. I proposed it. You could go watch the video here on the channel. I hope that it is a loser leaves Raw match in addition to being a Hell in a Cell match, because then you add more stakes to this. Drew can get out of there. He can lose. Although it's been pointed out, Drew does not have a very good reputation in Hell in a Cell matches. Wade Barrett put over that significantly on commentary, so that could be an interesting element of this. But if you really want to get these guys truly away from each other, you could absolutely, move the stipulation to loser leaves Raw, and then you just move on from there. So we get a Karrion Kross backstage segment with The Miz. He offers Miz to help get out of his rut. Xavier Woods gets in, asks Kross what's his angle. Kross said they were just having a conversation, and he just left. So after Kross leaves, Miz told Woods, hey, I invented the game that Kross is trying to play. He basically conceded, hey, I'm in a rut. After Miz leaves, Kofi Kingston shows up and informs Xavier Woods that they are going to be challenging next week for the WWE Tag Team titles. Hey, we're getting a Tag Team title match. Woods puts on Bret Hart's shades. I think he was wearing like a Bret Hart shirt. And said they would walk into their 10th anniversary in November as the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. They moved really quickly away from that Odyssey Jones stuff. He hasn't even been mentioned. He's clearly off the roster. By all accounts, he's been fired. It's a shame, really, because that was getting really interesting and making the New Day really an interesting thing. But obviously, real life circumstances and some of the unfortunate things that were alleged of Odyssey Jones caused WWE to just get rid of him. So that storyline's been dropped. Then we get Finn Balor versus Rey Mysterio. This was short. Rey at the end of this match goes for a 619, but Balor blocks it. Catapults Rey's throat in the top rope. He then applies a half crab through the ropes. Referee counts to 5. Balor ignores it, so he gets disqualified. This was effectively just to put over just how ruthless Finn was. He didn't need to win. So after the match, Balor drop kicks Rey into the ring post. He told the ref to shut up. Additional referees came in to try to get him away from ringside. Balor teased leaving, but he runs back, drop kicks Rey into the LED board on the apron. And Balor told Ray that there's more where that came from, and he headed to the back. So good night for the Judgment Day. Really a good night for the Judgment Day, because they needed this. They needed to come across as ruthless and killers, just sort of be taken seriously going into these two high profile matches at Bad Blood next month. Dragunov, Ilya, my guy, gets interviewed backstage by Jackie. He credited Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley for giving him a fair shot in this qualifying match because they fought off the Judgment Day. Dragunov brought up having unfinished business with Braun, and Braun shows up saying they don't have unfinished business because he already beat him. And Braun said he could beat him again. Jey Uso walked into the picture and glared at Breakker. Jey walked away and spoke into the camera about being in your city and called for his music. Jey makes his incredible entrance to the crowd. Joe Tessitore held up a Calgary Yeet fan side while Wade Barrett acted annoyed. Great heel face banter. We get a Judgment Day promo. Balor said while the other members stood behind him, spoke while all the other members stood behind him. He said he hopes everyone was watching tonight because they got a message from the Judgment Day. All the other members spoke briefly, including Liv to Rhea about their match coming up. Then we reveal the card for NXT. Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins are challenging for the NXT Tag Team titles on Tuesday's show. For those who didn't know, Ava on social media acknowledged that the Rascals will not be involved. I think that's a storyline thing that Wes Lee might have been involved in. That's what we're doing here. I really think that's the case. But there was no acknowledgement from Wade Barrett on commentary. Raw's next week in Portland, so we get Finn and JD versus the New Day for the tag team titles. CM Punk will be on the show. And then we get the main event for a four-way to determine the shot at the Intercontinental title. Early on in this match, Strowman shrugs off Pete Dunne's joint manipulation attempted and then tossed him onto Uso and Dragunov at ringside. We get a picture-in-picture break. Uso dodges a charging Strowman who went through the ropes in the corner and tumbled to ringside. Short time later, Dragunov leaps from the top rope into a super kick from Jey, who gets a near fall. Dragunov sells his nose and mouth going into another break. So this got 3 breaks in it. Strowman did his freight train a bit around ringside, tossed Pete Dunne into the barricade. Strowman then cleared the broadcast table and played to the crowd. But while Strowman is playing to the crowd, he turns around. Bronson Reed, back from COVID, jumped from the barricade and just splashes Braun through the broadcast table like it was nothing. It looked brutal. It looked great. Big, meaty men slapping meat. They're not finished. I figured this was going to be happening in reverse with Bronson probably getting attacked by Braun, but they did it this way because of obviously the unfortunate situation of Bronson, getting COVID. But it might have been good because he doesn't have to technically take a loss in a match. So it's effectively down to a triple threat match. Uso and Dragunov are in the ring when Reed made his exit. Yeet chants break out. Both men trade punches. It's yeet, woo, even when there was chops going on. Uso ducks a big boot, spears Dragunov. Dunn then tosses Uso out of the ring, tried to steal the pin. Great call from Joe Tessitore on this. It was a really, really close kick out at the last possible moment by Dragunov. Dunn then steps on Dragunov's fingers and then he stomps him out. Dunn drilled Dragunov with a few kicks. Dunn mounts Dragunov through some forearm strikes at him. Dragunov blocks the bitter end. He puts Dunn down with an H-bomb. Uso gets into the ring, kicks Dragunov out of the cover because, as you know, Dragunov sort of just like sits on top of his opponent out of the H-bomb. So Uso gets in, kicks Dragunov, hits the Uso, and so Dragunov is effectively eliminated, goes up top for the Uso splash, and he hits it on Pete Dunne, wins the match. This was fucking outstanding between all 4 of these men. A 20-minute match to main event. It's yet to be determined where this match will take place, but it was heavily implied that Jey Uso was going to be facing Braun Breaker for the Intercontinental title. I would expect Braun to beat him, and then we can send Jey and Sami Zayn. Sami's going to lose to Gunther, and ultimately that match they're going to go to the Bloodline on SmackDown. Braun Breaker gets in the ring while Uso's celebrating. Uso turns around, spots Breaker. They smile at each other, but before the show goes off the air, this was an outstanding season premiere. for Raw on USA. Obviously, we got a few months left in this thing. We obviously got the major announcement, even though it was really, you almost missed it if you weren't paying attention. But we get the huge announcement that Raw is going to 2 hours for the rest of the year, for the rest of the duration on USA. But yeah, this was a great show. Another great week for Joe Tessitore, who sounds like an absolute natural on commentary. Again, he's missed a couple moves, but that's nitpicking. The guy's a professional. Wade Barrett is just so good at his job. They bounce one-liners off each other. It feels big. And that main event specifically really felt like a main event because commentary was really delivering, especially with some of those close near falls at the end. So really good stuff from WWE. I'm really looking forward to the rest of the week. WWE Week on USA. All 3 shows for the rest of this month are going to be on the same network. I don't know when the last time that ever happened. And then obviously you're going to have the CW debut of NXT in October. So that's big time. But yeah, really good show from Raw tonight from Calgary. A really lively crowd. A lot of great moments, a lot of great matches. Everything made sense. And again, not having to do crazy bullshit spots in street fights right off the top. I talked about it. You don't have to go too far in wrestling. And one thing I do need to address, because I've been getting, a bunch of shit on my social media about this. Listen, you guys comparing this to like The Walking Dead and, like saying, oh, you know what? Hey, and John Moxley's going to have a segment trying to explain attempted murder on Dynamite on Wednesday. But all you people just trying to get mad at me or trying to say it's fake outrage, I've heard that complaint too, about what transpired in Chicago at All Out on Saturday. Again, I will continue to say it again. You don't need needles. You don't need thumbtacks. You don't need tables. You can use tables to effectively do things. You don't need unprotected chair shots to the head. You don't need to light people on fire or go through glass walls to tell an effective wrestling story. Do not tell me that AEW is the safest wrestling company in the world. Tony Khan, you are full of shit. Okay? And for these AEW marks or just stands who just really can't stand to take any ounce of criticism from a guy like me who loves wrestling. And I love seeing intense and crazy ass spots and shit. But it has gone way too far this year. So to follow up on a couple of videos that I've said on the show, especially on the back of this outstanding episode of Raw, because it's further hammers home my point. You do not need to do a bunch of bullshit to get over with your fans. Because at that point, you're catering to the internet crowd who's very loud but doesn't show up or watch your show. They're just there. So when I'm outraged over something like that, because it's one thing when you have Swerve Strickland and Hangman Page trying to kill each other in a blood feud that's lasted a year. There's been home invasions and people burning each other's houses down. Yes, I can totally understand why they'd want to go to extraordinary lengths to kill each other. I wouldn't have done cinder blocks, unprotected chair shots, and needles in that match, but that's me. So I'm willing to kind of look past that. Even the Statlander Willow match was really great because those two women have hated each other, and that's been a heat-filled feud for like 3-4 months. So it makes sense. But then John Moxley, like, going to those lengths to suffocate his friend in a shock heel turn, which I've seen a million of those in my day. A shock heel turn. Why did you need to go that far? So if you're asking yourself, really, where my source of anger was, yes, the stuff at the end of the Hangman Swerve match. But, again, that match was going to be as violent as it was. My problem was with that John Moxley angle. Because that was just way over the line. There's a reason why Terry Funk did it like 30 years ago and everybody hated it. It didn't need to happen. It was awful. It involved your world champion who's about to fucking retire effectively. And that happens right before your main event when you're about to have two guys try to kill each other too. It was overkill. It was unnecessary. And again, when you watch this show, it was so much more easily digestible watching this show because you go from a street fight where people are really effectively trying to hurt each other. But hey, it's safe. and you've got cool spots in it, table bumps and everything, and nothing's really inherently dangerous. These guys are obviously taking risk because that's an element of sports and entertainment, but it's nothing like what we saw on Saturday. So again, going back to what I was saying on this channel throughout the weekend, tonight's show specifically really hammered home the point of you can be safe in wrestling but also be violent. But there's a certain line, and WWE has mastered that art for years. I feel like people got so disillusioned with Vince McMahon's WWE that they just wanted, latch on to Tony Khan and say, oh, he delivered for us when we needed a place to go. But now that WWE is cooking and AEW's magic pixie dust has worn off, you guys have completely lost all sight of reality in the fact that AEW is way too far gone. Because if you want to sign off on some of the shit that happened on Saturday, and honest to God, watch this show and say it's better, that All Out was better than Raw, you're full of shit, because that was just a bunch of bullshit. Because, again, we still don't know why Jon Moxley did that. And anything that he says on Wednesday, I don't think is going to register even remotely thing. Because what causes a man to try and kill a guy? What justification is there for that? So, rant over. I was thinking about that watching this show, and I was just like, God, AEW did all that bullshit over a 4-hour period. WWE does this in 3, and it felt way more fun to watch, way more enjoyable. My sister enjoys the hell out of WWE. It's entertaining, but, some people are just going to stick their guns to AEW, and that's fine. That's fine. Support what you want to support, but if you want to criticize WWE, come with a valid criticism. Don't come at me with this bracelet shit. Don't come at me with, the women are not being featured prominently. Oh, we only have 5 matches on a premium live event. Guys, WWE is beating you in just every single metric, and it's because of the shit that you did was for one niche audience. 600,000 people watch it a week. You had under 200,000 people watch Collision. Under 200,000 people watch Collision this week on Friday. You want to know why? SmackDown was on at the same time. And then Rampage outrates Collision because nothing was going up against Rampage. What does that tell you? Your secondary show sucks, okay? And another thing that I do need to address here, because while I'm at it, I'm just kind of going to town here on the post show here. There's a report going around that a trademark was filed by AEW called for Shockwave. And there's speculation that that's going to be the new AEW show. I don't know why AEW needs a new show, but there's a rumor going around that Fox might end up getting the rights to whatever this is. And AEW fans from here to there were yelling, oh my God, this is such... Fox didn't want to pay up for SmackDown, but they're willing to pay up for AEW. Guys, that is like TBS getting Main Event or NXT Level Up, which are like insignificant shows that are catered to a smaller audience. This is the 4th AEW show. So even if Fox gets it, it's not as big of a deal as what SmackDown gave to WWE for SmackDown. What the fuck are we talking about here? Y'all have been losing your minds over this shit. You're so far gone because your owner just keeps trumpeting out oh, we're the anti-establishment, we're the opposite of this. And then you get something like what you saw on Saturday night, and you want to tell me that that's the wrestling that you grew up watching? People will tell me, oh, what about ECW? What about ECW? Yeah, ECW did reckless shit. They didn't go to those lengths. And even if ECW came back at this day and age, they understand where the line is in 2024. So, big rant there at the end that I didn't anticipate doing, but you know what? I had a lot on my mind coming through the show. I was really hyped up. Great usage of Bret Hart. Great main event. Great opener. A lot of good stuff in between. This was really strong. And again, like I said, a really great performance from Wade Barrett and from Joe Tessitore. So we'll have a lot of great content here on the channel this week. Subscribe, like, share. OT Mike Wrestling on Twitter for show content and live tweeting of a lot of the main WWE and AEW shows. And also follow me for some of my sports and other miscellaneous takes at Off the Mic 28. Love and appreciate you guys. Thanks for the support. We just crossed 100 followers on the OT Mike Wrestling Twitter account, so please like, share, and follow on that account. Like I said, appreciate y'all. Even if you disagree with me, I love the banter, even if it drives me nuts. It gets me fired up, and it makes me want to do these shows and yell about wrestling. It's a passion of mine. So thanks again, guys. I will talk to you soon. Bye bye.